This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Never has such courage been bravely displayed as courageous bravery than in the previous Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Courage.
This week, we are continuing our look at The Last Jedi. And at this point, if you haven't seen the movie, well, that's on you. Last time we focused on Luke, Rey, Kylo, and Snoke, and some of the Force elements of the movie. This week, we are headed to the bright lights of Canto Bight as we focus on Finn, Rose, and DJ.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess the lesson throughout this whole movie is, don't try to do things that you think should be done. Do things that you know should be done.
That need to be done. Maybe.
Okay, yeah. That's
sure.
Want versus need.
Do you think maybe with Finn in The Force Awakens, his character growth was he was trying to determine what was the right thing to do in the face of this First Order that he found himself as stormtrooper serving. And then he got out from underneath that, and then he just wanted to get as far away as possible. And even when he went back to Starkiller Base, he told the Resistance it was to help them find a way to destroy it so they could bring down the shield. But he admitted to Han when they got there, it's like all he cared about was finding Rey.
Gosh, that's such a good question, because I almost feel like he had more character growth in The Force Awakens with the way that he did make the decision to leave the First Order and give up everything that he knew and fight for a new cause. But in the end, it's all about Rey.
Did you all enjoy Benicio's portrayal of DJ?
He was such an interesting character. And just the fact that you got to see his dirty holy sock feet first. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something we've never seen. You've never seen anybody with their shoes off in Star Wars.
Whoa, you've never seen Star Wars socks. Yeah. Wow, the space socks before. Yeah, it's weird because he's so intense as an actor in almost everything that I've seen him in.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like his Heineken commercials were good training for something like this. A couple of things. First off, I think he does care. I think he does, because if he didn't, he would not have given Rose back her. What was that?
The little medallion.
Yeah. What do you call that again?
Smelt.
Yeah.
It was like the ore.
Oh, I don't know how it smelt, but it looked weird. But the...
Hello.
The Danish. It has been forever since we last spoke. It is good to hear your mortal voice.
Long enough. Thanks, Deep Breath. So, why are you calling us this?
There is no time for the small talk. There are things that happened on The Last Jedi that have wildered past the point of bewildering.
I knew there had to be more to the story.
We're going to regret this.
Yes. It is a widely little-known knowledge that Rey accidentally saw the tattoo Kylo had marked upon his Ben body when he was still a Ben child.
What's the tattoo of?
They convinced him to get a tramp stamp that reads Dark Side with an arrow pointing to his unknown regions.
Knock it off. Hello, Scoundrels. You found the right place for more Star Wars discussion. Here's what is coming up on this episode. The second half of the final season of Rebels has a premiere date. We'll discuss this and the solo movie synopsis in this week's news. Interested in maybe meeting a Star Wars celebrity in February? Darth Taxus is ready to tell you where they will be in another edition of Skystalking. They are the spark that will ignite the fire that will burn down the First Order. We're talking about the heroes of the Resistance from The Last Jedi and our hypothetical. As always, we'll finish out the show with some listener feedback and Silence Fools. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. This is episode 47 of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Okay, I think I'm officially ready to be done with winter.
Is the cold getting to you?
The cold doesn't bother me. Anyway, I'm just tired of the short days. It makes it feel like I can't get anything done. I get up when it's dark, go to work, do a little evil at lunchtime, go back to work, and it's already dark again.
Isn't it always dark in space?
I don't know, Jay. I'm not a scientist.
I think there's plenty of ambient light, unless you're behind a planet or a moon.
I don't think anyone really knows the answer. I'm just getting cabin fever.
Well, why don't you move the Assessor Collector to someplace tropical?
No, I would. but the entire ship is stuck in ice and can't move.
Did you land it somewhere during the last cold blast?
No, it's still in orbit.
Then how is it stuck?
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, does it? Well, you see, the crew were getting a little stir-crazy for summer. Before I knew it, they pulled off all the faucet covers on the ship and opened the fire hydrants when I was in the shower. It was during hour 3 of my shower that I noticed a drop in the water pressure. Before I could stop them, those little rascals encased the entire ship in a block of ice.
Well, did you take it out on the crew?
Well, I was going to get mad, but...
You decided to let it go.
That joke's cold, Jay. No, I decided to get even. I stayed in that shower so long, nobody had hot water for the past week. But I'm sure it'll take no time for the ice to melt in space, right? At least I hope so. It's starting to get a little ripe in the crew quarters. Shiver more than my timbers, Space P1s. You've just stuck your tongue to the frozen metal pole of Star Wars podcasts. I'm your co-host doing a controlled slide across black ice, Darth Taxus, coming to you from the walk-in freezer of my flagship, the Assessor Collector. And with me are my co-hosts who think ice fishing is a cyber attack originating from the Arctic, Dennis the Phantom Menace Keithley and Jay the Hut J. Krebs. Dennis and Jay.
Well, hey guys. Yeah, it's been pretty cold in my part of the country as well. Mm-hmm. So just trying to stay warm and yeah, here we are. Dennis?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm in Taxus's neighborhood when he's not in deep space. And yeah, it's been a very cold Texas winter, but we seem to be rebounding to what is normal for us. But
I don't want to say it was cold outside, but I saw a Tauntaun cut Han Solo open.
Oh.
Okay. Well, we have a little bit of a programming note. Just like our Scoundrels Summer Book Club from last year, we are on the road to Han Solo as we finish up our Last Jedi coverage. And with that, we are going to start a solo series of books. And we thought it'd be fun to go back to some old classics, the Han Solo Adventures written by Brian Daley. Those were originated back in the late 70s and the early 80s, and they have some ongoing adventures of Han Solo. They're clearly legends at this point, but we're going to be doing one of these a month, February, March, and April. So you can find this book on your Kindle app. That's probably the easiest way to get it, if you which you can download for pretty much any phone at this point, or you can go to Amazon and you can find it used copies, or I know there's a mass market paperback of the collected edition of the book as well. But again, that's the Han Solo Adventures by Brian Daley. The first one's Han Solo at Star's End, and we'll be reading that one in our last show for February.
Excellent.
Yay. I know there's so many things out there that I haven't read, and this is definitely one of them. And now I have a good reason to do it. So looking forward to it and sharing it with the Scoundrels.
Yeah, I hadn't actually read these either, so I'm looking forward to adding this to my Legends collection.
I hope there's disco balls.
All right, that seems like as good a point as any to head over to the news. So there's some fairly significant news in the Star Wars universe this week, and Jay will kick it all off for us with the discussion of our first story.
There is finally a set premiere date for the debut of the second half of the final season of Rebels. Disney and Lucasfilm announced that Rebels will return on Monday, February 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern on Disney XD. As with the first half of the season, 2 episodes of Rebels will be released each week until the series concludes on March 5th. In addition to the announcement of the return of Rebels, Lucasfilm also released the trailer for the second half of the season, which featured, among other things, Emperor Palpatine himself, Ian McDiarmid. Whoa.
Yeah, that's big.
So good stuff. So first thing I have to ask you guys is, how do you feel about 2 episodes a night? Do you like it that way? Or do you think, would you rather it be spread out, savor the flavor a little more, so to speak?
Well, that's how they did the first half of the season. They doubled them up for almost the, last fall, almost every week.
Right.
And now they're going out that way. Considering that there's only 6 episodes left, we're going to be done in 3 weeks. I kind of would have liked to have them done one at a time.
Yeah.
But okay, fine. I guess what's kind of sad about this whole thing is that We're going to rush through all these episodes of Rebels. Then we're going to get the Solo movie in May. And then we got nothing on the calendar as far as content for a year and a half.
Right.
So,
except for reading and thinking.
Well, you know, and March 5th just seems so early because most series, even when they come to a season's end, it's not usually until, April or May. And it almost seems like it would make more sense to drag it out, take us to Solo, but maybe they're, wanting to build the hype for that. But yeah, I really would like to savor the flavor. Not going to lie.
Well, and it's weird because, previously they weren't really leading up to Rogue One, but they were leading up to Rogue One, right? Time-wise, it wasn't right up to there, but they were setting some things in motion that led into Rogue One, if you remember correctly. And they kind of had a muzzle on them. They couldn't really do anything that would tip the hand as to the plot or anything in the movie. So this time around, nothing's really connected to Han Solo, right? it's not really leading up to it or something, but still, I kind of wish that they would spread it out a little because it feels like, here guys, watch these real quick.
Unless I'm mistaken, though, most of the Rogue One content came after Rogue One was out.
Yeah, it did.
Saw Gerrera's introduction, the Death Troopers and all them were after that movie. I think, there just wasn't the rush to get it out there. And I don't know why that is, that they're doing it this year. But it is what it is. And so we'll roll with it. But let's talk about the trailer just a little bit there. The first half was kind of a retrospective. It took snippets from 3 previous seasons and kind of showed us how we got to where we are now. But then it had the last minute or so had a bunch of new footage, and Jay already touched on the first big bit, which is that Emperor Palpatine's there, and it's been confirmed that Ian McDiarmid is doing the voice, so that was a nice get. What were some other things that stood out to y'all from that trailer?
Well, the weird thing that stood out to me was the ticking in the background. The whole thing. And towards the end, because about the 70th time I watched the trailer, I was listening to it through headphones, and it almost sounded in a way like Emperor Palpatine going, like his little laugh, but, to a tick, 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 tick sound. So maybe that was just me reading into it, but I don't know, that really kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
But that was just one thing. And of course, Mortis. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's what
Mortis,
what I was going to say. That's the one thing that stood out to me was the Mortis iconography, you might say. I've been trying to make time to look all this stuff up, but I feel like there's some very definite hardcore classical meanings in the positioning of the hands, the power, so to speak, around the hands. They're all the left hand. If you notice, the father's holding his up in the middle, the son's holding his up in a fist, and the daughter's holding hers down and across to her right side. I thought that was interesting. So I did a little initial research, and it looks like in some Western, civilization thinking, the right hand is authority, and am I getting this right? The right hand is authority, and the left hand, I believe, is power. Yes, authority on the right, power on the left. But I feel like there's probably more there, and I'm just, I don't know, I'm kind of scratching the surface on it right now, but there's something to all that. Plus, it looks like it's on a star map, too. That's interesting to me,
I love that connection with the different civilizations because, of course, as we know, there's so much mythology, legend, and ties to different historical perspectives and everything in Star Wars. So it would make sense. But good catch there.
I got to tell you, I was slightly annoyed to see that Mortis scene.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Really? Why?
I'm on record as not being a big fan of the Mortis trilogy to begin with.
Right.
Second, I think, not want to say second, primarily because I feel like there's too much mysticism tied up in the Force from that story arc and the Bendu and everything. I was complaining about this on one of our Rebels reviews in the fall season. And not that that's itself is a problem, but it seems to be a substitute for story. and I'm more interested in the story than I am in the philosophy of the Force, I guess.
Right.
So what I'm still concerned about, and this is not really has anything to do with the trailer, except for Mortis reminded me of this, is that when this season's done, are we going to have the answers we want about the fate of all the rebels? And the wolves featured prominently in this trailer again, and I've been critical of them because I feel like in many instances they've stolen the destiny out of the hands of the rebels. They've intervened, and without them, we wouldn't have our rebels. It's happened at least a couple times. So I'm willing to watch these episodes with an open mind, but I am hoping when it's done that the wolves and whatever's going on with this Mortis imagery, and we had a Conover that was in that trailer as well, that those are, I want to say, accessories and not the heart of these episodes going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder what he's kind of stuck in that he finds this. I don't know, maybe it's a Force vision or something, but I was kind of hoping it would actually be a relic,
Well, I got the impression that he was doing that, just looking at some of the episode titles here, the February 19th episodes are Jedi Knight and Doom. The 26th is Wolves and Adore and A World Between Worlds. And then the final two episodes are Fool's Hope, and the last one is Family Reunion and a Farewell, which I guess is supposed to be kind of an hour-long episode. Yeah. But those two, the Wolves and Adore and the World Between Worlds, coupled with this trailer, gave me the impression that maybe Ezra is going to be traveling through a corridor like they did, that like kind of like the wolves helped them out a few episodes ago. That was my assumption there. So I know a lot of people are speculating Kanan's fate with the Jedi Knight and Doom episodes.
Well, and the other day on our private channels, I had asked you how many wolves were there again after seeing the Mortis trio there, and you said there were 4 wolves. But I don't know. Maybe there's something to do with Ahsoka and all that. There
was one wolf. Go ahead.
Well, okay. This comes up a lot now. It's Ahsoka's the owl. Ahsoka's the wolf. The Mortis beings are the wolves, and
I'm saying like an avatar.
Sure. Yeah. I guess, but it's just kind of I don't know. Is that how we want to see Ahsoka come back? I want to see Ahsoka come back as Ahsoka. I mean, there's the possibilities are endless. I'm not convinced those wolves are anything other than a species that's on that planet, and maybe one of them has a deeper connection into the Force because we see different numbers of them throughout that trailer. At one point there was 4 of them that had people riding on them. At another point there was just the 3 in the cave. When they went through the caves a couple episodes ago, there were 3 of them that were guiding them. So the numbers change there, and I don't know. I feel like I'm a big downer every time I talk about this, it's just I have expectations for the end of this series. I kind of want this story to be tied up. Dave Filoni at Celebration said that, this gave him the opportunity to end a series, which he hasn't been able to do before. And I hope he really takes advantage of that to tie up these stories and to give us a conclusion and not leave us wondering what's going on at the end. Right. Sure, there may be some details that you could leave out there that would fuel discussion going forward, but, Clone Wars didn't end that way. And I'd rather not see Rebels in that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just feel like they are going to leave us with a little bit of mystery. They're going to leave us with something that's kind of unsettling. It almost feels like they're going to leave us with the fact that they were all dead on Lost the entire time. I'm still not happy about that, but
well, I do feel like, I think we're going to get a lot of closure, but at the same time, I do sort of hope that there will be some opportunity for some new stories to come out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't want the doors to close completely, for sure.
So what do you think is going to happen on Family Reunion and Farewell?
I don't know. To me, it's I'm trying to avoid a lot of speculation here because we could be here all night just talking about this trailer.
Oh, yeah.
But it suggests to me that the team is split up, and to a degree they have. I mean, they got to rescue Hera at the beginning of this second half of the season, and they're going to rendezvous for whatever the conclusion of this series is in that episode, and then farewell could be. A goodbye to Lothal, because we see that the city getting bombarded by a Star Destroyer in the course of this trailer. There's a lot of things that can happen, and I don't know. At this point, I'd just kind of like to see it unfold.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of seeing things unfold, in case you forgot, Solo, a Star Wars story, is slated for release on May 25th, 2018. Even though we still don't have a teaser at the time of this recording, Lucasfilm has released the official synopsis for the film, which is, and I will not be giving a spoiler warning. Just saying, because you'll see why. Board the Millennium Falcon and journey to a galaxy far, far away in Solo, a Star Wars story, an all-new adventure with the most beloved scoundrel in the galaxy. Through a series of daring escapades deep within a dark and dangerous criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his mighty future co-pilot Chewbacca and encounters the notorious gambler Lando Calrissian in a journey that will set the course for one of the Star Wars saga's most unlikely heroes. Wow, that was almost a run-on sentence. Although no additional details of Solo were released, StarWars.com compiled all of Ron Howard's Twitter and Instagram posts documenting the production of Solo, which is sure to be a hit behind the scenes book one day. So okay. I don't know. I said no spoiler, but I just realized that it says, hey, he meets Chewbacca. I kind of wanted to see them just dropped in the middle of knowing each other. You know what I mean? I don't know. Sure.
And it may not be a long scene. This is not much to go by, which is fine with me.
Yeah.
We'll be getting a teaser sometime in the next few weeks, I suspect. The Last Jedi is winding down in theaters, and I've seen things online. Various retailers are already allowing you to pre-order that movie on Blu-ray and DVD, and they're suggesting the end of March for that. So we should be swinging into the promotion for Solo pretty soon, I would suspect. I know there's a lot of people that are concerned about this. I would just remind folks that we haven't had 2 Star Wars movies in a 6-month period before.
Right.
There was a fair amount of distress prior to Rogue One because things didn't really wrap up until right after August because they had that deal with the Mission Impossible movie, Rogue Nation. They were trying to avoid confusion there. So it's coming. They generally in the past have tried to not overlap on their promotion of the movies. So this is interesting. I'm glad we already knew Chewbacca and Lando were going to be in this film. Okay, so we got a detail about their first meetings, I suppose. But let's not forget something here. In The Empire Strikes Back, Lando rebukes Han. What have you done to my ship?
Yeah.
And Han remarks, he says, hey, I won her fair and square. So we can conclude that probably is going to happen in this movie too. Or if they are meeting for the first time here. So maybe we'll get to see that.
You know what? I almost wish they wouldn't show that. I wish they would get up to that point and then cut the movie.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be one way of doing it.
Because you know what happens.
Right. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I'm glad that they're doing it where they are. I do want to see the meetup with Chewbacca. I do want to see that backstory. And of course, the whole friendship with Lando and how he acquired the Millennium Falcon. I mean, that's always been things that have been headcanon for a lot of people as far as how that happened. We've got the little tidbits and whatnot, but we don't know the exact details. So I think it'll be fun to watch that all play out.
Yeah. I got some headcanon too about that. I was just wondering, okay, we're assuming Lando owns it outright. Maybe it was a something they both thought they won together, and so that's why Lando's calling it his ship, and everything like that. I don't know. I'm speculating at this point, but I just love thinking about where this could go, and I'm kind of getting excited for it because some of the initial reactions out of a sneak preview in Deutschland were pretty good. Somebody said it had all the old world feels, all the good feelings. So
I'm excited for this. I mean, it's I am sure we'll all get really excited when we get to see that first trailer. Bring it on.
Sure.
Okay. Well, awards season is in full swing, and The Last Jedi has picked up some nominations from the Academy Awards. Rian Johnson's film received nominations in the following categories. So, no surprise, music original score, John Williams, breaking his own record for most nominations.
Wow.
Sound editing, Matthew Wood and Ren Kleiss, which is how I believe you pronounce that name. Sound mixing, David Parker, Michael Semenik, Ren Kleiss, thanks, Stuart Wilson, and visual effects, which is Ben Morris, Mike Mulholland, Neil Scanlon, and Chris Corbold. So good luck to the crew of The Last Jedi. I guess it was the last time Star Wars won an Oscar at the ceremony was back for The Empire Strikes Back. So it's
geez.
Yeah.
Very much overdue.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah, I'm surprised Rogue One didn't win anything, to be honest with you.
Well, the Oscars typically don't cater to a whole lot of mainstream things.
Right. Sure.
You watch it and you say, what movie was that? When did that come out?
There were a couple of picks in Best Picture that I went, really?
Yeah. I admit, I enjoy watching the Oscars. I have them on. I'm not typically glued to the screen, but I have it on when I'm doing something else, and it's kind of just fun to see what's going on with all of that. I sometimes get an idea of a movie to check out later. I usually try and catch one of the Best Picture nominees, so I have something to root for. I don't know that I've seen any of them, so I need to get to the theaters. But at least Star Wars is going to be there for a few categories for us to pull for that.
Sure.
Okay.
I just like it for the red carpet. I like all the dresses and who are you wearing tonight?
Yeah, and some of the truly ridiculous things people show up in. So, okay. Well, we got one last story that suggests a potential new project for Lucasfilm.
Yes.
Taxus, why don't you fill us in on that?
Well, and I want to preface this by saying, don't read anything into this except for what we have seen ourselves. And basically, out on the LinkedIn the other day, which is one of the most popular social media sites for Star Wars fans.
Sure.
Yeah, not really. But this little job posting popped up on an alert notification from Lucasfilm. And it says, about this job, director, episodic, project hire, Lucasfilm Studio, San Francisco, California, U.S. Here's the description. Lucasfilm Animation and creators of the Emmy Award-winning animation series Star Wars The Clone Wars and the highly successful animation series Star Wars Rebels are looking for a versatile production coordinator to join their production team. The episodic director's main role is to work closely with all levels of creative production in tandem with the supervising director in order to bring the script to life in our animated television series. The ideal candidate is expected to balance managing all the various aspects of production while successfully maintaining the highest quality of technical and creative storytelling possible for their respective episodes. Along that, there's about 4 or so production assistants I saw also posted out there. So they're gearing up for something. I don't know exactly what. I mean, hey, it could be an Indiana Jones television series. Who knows? But all I know is that they do reference the 2 Star Wars animation series that they've done, but then again, I guess that's kind of the only thing they really have done except for Destinies. I mean, I guess it could be a bigger Destinies, but I haven't seen anything that they've planned on making that into a 30-minute episodic type series. Have y'all?
No. I mean, we could speculate on all kinds of things about this.
And it's purely speculation at this point, of course.
Right. Yeah. And I was suggesting earlier, as of the moment, we have no new projects announced for television or film between May of this year and December of 2019 when episode 9 comes out. So maybe they have something that they're getting ready to get done for this fall and winter. Maybe this is the animated series that they're talking about for the new Disney streaming service that's coming later. And, so we may not be seeing this for a while. We still may have our long gap in production, but, it's exciting to know that this crew is getting ready to do something. I hope it's Star Wars, but that was a nice find on your part, Taxus.
Oh, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
So like I said, LinkedIn, the place to be for all the hip kids.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for the news for this week. For more on these and other Star Wars stories, we recommend such sites as retrozap.com, Bantha Tracks, Jedi News, theforce.net, and Coffee with Kenobi.
According to legend, General Grievous was known to boast of the number of lightsabers he had acquired from the bodies of his slain Jedi enemies. Grievous was the first in a long tradition of collectors of rare items. A tradition that continues to this day on the Retro Zap podcast known as the Dork Lair. Dork Lair.
I feel like we're being watched.
I am wondering, why are you here?
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say.
Right.
Okay, it's the last show of the month. Therefore, Taxus is back to tell us where to find the Star Wars celebrities in February with this month's edition of Sky Stalking. Taxus, where is everybody?
Oh, everybody is here and there. And at Cedar Rapids Comic-Con, February 3rd in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We've got Barbara Goodson, who is a Clone Wars voice for Mother Talzin. That's a good. And Jason Aaron with Marvel Star Wars comics in the main line. So that same weekend, Back Anime, February 3rd to 4th, Bakersfield, California. Get it back, Bakersfield. Got Liam O'Brien, Star Wars Rebels, and he does a ton of voices. Next weekend, February 9th through 11th, Farpoint in Timonium, Maryland. And we all know Timonium is one of the strongest elements on the periodic table. Timothy Zahn. So, that's a good. Get your Thrawn books, take them out there, get them signed. Maybe if you got a strong Thrawn print or something like somebody does. Same weekend, February 10th, ZoloCon, Warminster, Pennsylvania. Mark McKenna with Star Wars Comics. Then, same weekend, only 10th through 11th, I Like Comic-Con. You like Comic-Con too, right?
We all like Comic-Con.
Yes, in Vancouver, Washington. Howard Chaykin, the original Star Wars Marvel comic. Deep Roy, Drooping the Cool, and an Ewok. Dan Parsons is also with Star Wars, does work with Star Wars comics.
Yeah, he was on the Legacy series, which was what would be taking place of the Force Awakens, Last Jedi trilogy right now, and that had some really interesting character, including the descendants of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, he wanted nothing to do with Luke either, or his family history. I thought it was kind of yeah. I'm gonna have to go revisit that because that was an interesting series. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next weekend after that, February 15th through 18th, we've got Capricorn in Wheeling, Illinois. And again, Timothy Zahn's going to make an appearance there. So yeah, go check that out. Okay, that same weekend, February 16th to 18th, Boscone 55 in the Boston area. Yeah, go find this. Because who's there? I'll tell you who's there. Craig Miller. And you might be saying to yourself, who is Craig Miller? Well, he was the director of fan relations for Lucasfilm from 77 to 80. And he created and oversaw the official Star Wars fan club. So, he's the producer of Star Wars Sesame Street episodes, in addition to operating R2-D2 in a couple of them. He did a lot of work, including Underoos commercials. So just kind of one of those fun behind-the-scenes guys who's probably got a lot of stories to tell. So I would recommend going to check that out, All right, same weekend, all the way across the Great Continental. Los Angeles, California, Gallifrey 1. Kevin Scott, author of Adventures in Wild Space, and Barbara Hambly, who's a tie-in novelist.
Right. She wrote some of the old Legends novels, including Planet of Twilight and Children of the Jedi, which introduced Callista, a former love interest for Luke Skywalker in the Legends line.
Ooh. All right. That same weekend at National Harbor, Maryland, KatsuCon, with Steve Bloom and, of course, usually I decide, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Their work from Rebels, amongst other things. Same weekend, Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas?
Both.
Oh, yeah, who can know? It's probably standing on both sides. Jim Cummings and Tom Kane. After that, same weekend, we've got Anime Milwaukee in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with Christina V. of Star Wars The Old Republic Voices, and Carrie Walgreen, who's Letta Termund in Clone Wars and female Jedi Knight in Star Wars The Old Republic.
Same weekend, February 17th through 18th in Johnson City, Tennessee at EtsuCon, Courtney Taylor, who's a voice in Star Wars The Old Republic, Jedi Juhani. Next weekend, February 23rd to 24th in Warren, Michigan at the Great Lakes Comic-Con, Brian Muir, the designer for such great things. Yeah, I've been working on the off-season. That's great. Same weekend, February 23rd, 25th in Springfield, Missouri, VisionCon, Lee Coase, who's a Star Wars artiste. Now here's
an official Lucasfilm artist, as a matter of fact.
Yes, indeed. And also on that weekend, Pensacola, Florida, Pensacon. This is a big one. Got a lot of people here. We got Brent Spiner, Brian Herring, who is the puppeteer, and in fact, just BB-8 in general, the human version. Claudia Gray. Hey, she does books. You like books? Everybody does. Another appearance by Deep Roy. Now, this is a cool one, and I'm upset that I can't see him. Garrick Hagan, who played Biggs Darklighter. So, we've also got Hugh Spite, who is part of the Return of the Jedi crew. Ian McElhenney, who is General Dodonna in the new Rogue One. So he's the new General Dodonna. And, side note, I just did not even connect him to being Sarah Barristan Selmy from Game of Thrones,
Well, there you go.
Completely different. I mean, got Jason Isaacs, who's everybody's favorite Inquisitor and probably now one of my favorite Starship captains in Star Trek. Maisie Richardson Sellers, who is Corsella in The Force Awakens. She had a brief moment of then dead.
Yeah, as the planet blew up around her.
Yes. Mike Barron, Dark Horse Star Wars comics related, and Paul Blake, Greedo, Ute Lute, Ray Park. Oh, Ray Park. That's got that's always greatness. You got to get out there.
Yeah, Ray's always traveling to the cons.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to touch on Mike Barron there. You mentioned that he's with Dark Horse Star Wars Comics. He was involved in Dark Force Rising and Heir to the Empire on those series. So those are some classics. Make sure you check those out and go visit him.
Mm-hmm. Same weekend, we've got Vegas Toy Con, Las Vegas, Nevada. Jeremy Bullock, Daniel Logan, how's that for a couple of Boba Fetts? And Mike Quinn, who is Nien Nunb in The Force Awakens. Same weekend, actually one day, February 24th in Cherryville, Indiana. We've got NWI. No idea what that means, but it's NWI. Dave Dorman did some work with Star Wars Dark Horse Comics.
Yeah, he is the cover artist for Tales of the Jedi, Dark Empire, and the Young Jedi Knights series. And of those three, the Dark Empire one was also a huge event. So
awesome.
That's a good get.
Yeah. Now, we got Fanfare, same weekend, 24th to 25th in New York, New York. Mike Lilly was a Star Wars artist with Topps cards. After that, same weekend, and Doncaster, United Kingdom, not the University of Kentucky. Digicon, which has Andy Seacombe, who did the voice for Watto in the first couple of episodes, 1 and 2. And rounding it up, we've got Central Jersey Comic Book Show Bordentown, which is a very long name. February 25th in Bordentown, New Jersey. No relation. Actually, there is. We've got Matt Butic.
Yeah. Okay. Well done.
Thank you.
And of course, he's a Star Wars Topps artist. So
yes. Yes, he is indeed. So check out his stuff, and and that's literally the end of
we were giggling for no reason.
Yes.
Okay, Scoundrels, there it is. That's where all the Star Wars celebrities are appearing in February. If you happen to go and meet one of these celebrities, we want to hear about it. Send us your emails and your pictures to sqpod@retrozap.com. So our discussion of The Last Jedi is concluding this week with a look at some of the key figures of the Resistance. More specifically, we're examining the roles of General Organa, Poe Dameron, and Vice Admiral Holdo. Mm-hmm. I didn't save these three for last in our discussion for any particular reason. As we've discussed The Last Jedi, I've just tried to keep characters that were related, their stories are related in some more obvious fashion, other than they just all showed up in this movie. And these three, their story was very interrelated for 3/4 of the movie. So I decided to put them together, and we'll start with General Organa first. We begin this movie with they're at Dakar, they're getting ready to evacuate, or they're in the middle of evacuating when the First Order shows up, and she has that conflict with Poe. They get everyone off the planet, but then he goes ahead and goes through with his plan to attack the Dreadnought anyway. Jay, what did you think of General Organa's rebuke or reprimand of Poe after that scene?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I cannot believe that we are concluding our Last Jedi hypotheticals. Yeah. It seems like just yesterday we were so excited to be able to just see the movie for the first time, and it's a little bittersweet, I must say, to say that we're concluding this. But as far as Leia's reprimand of Poe, it's an interesting relationship, I think, between Leia and Poe, because of course Poe lost his mother, and I really do feel that he not only looks at Leia as his leader, but also as a mother figure as well. So there's a different dynamic there, I think, between the two of them than there might be between any other general and any other pilot that happened to do his own thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, right. It's almost like, in a way, that he is the son that didn't follow mom's orders, and she's smacking him for it. Yeah. So I do agree that she knew exactly what she was doing, and she kind of had to put him in his place. And yeah, he's a great pilot, but he also needs to know that there is a time and a place to do things, and sometimes trusting your gut isn't always the way to handle that. But yeah, their whole relationship, I think, is a very different one than what most might be.
Yeah, he does kind of come off like he's straining under her leash, so to speak, like a kid that's saying, you stupid olds, I totally know what I'm doing, okay?
Yeah, testing the boundaries. And being a little rebellious. Rebellion inside the rebellion.
Yeah. I just, I think that, I don't know, I didn't feel the power of General Organa like I did in The Force Awakens, And I just feel
that's interesting you say that. Let me react to that real quick.
Oh, okay.
Because, I'm sorry. Go ahead and make your point, but then I have something I want to say about that.
And maybe, it wasn't necessarily the acting or anything like that, but it was more the civvy uniform or the civic clothes. You know what I mean? I liked seeing her in a military uniform in the first movie, and it immediately kind of made her like, she's taking an active role. Because, she's always worn, kind of semi-military looking clothes on occasion, but more civilian looking stuff, and I don't know, I just kind of missed that aspect. And I guess to a certain extent I hold over that to Holdo too. I just, like, you're an admiral? Really? Where's your, insignias? You know what I mean? I just felt that was a little off.
Sure. I agree with you on Holdo. With Leia, I'd spent some time wondering if that whole... the reason she was dressed that way and not in her military attire was some statement of mourning or something, because Han had passed away, and that she was coming to grips with losing Ben/Kylo, on some sort of a permanent basis. So that was that. But I can't remember exactly the way you said it, Taxus,
but the power of Leia. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt, she had a much bigger role in this movie. I felt like her role in The Force Awakens was to kind of grump a little bit with Han, reconcile a little bit with Han, and then welcome Rey back wordlessly, from Star Killer Base. It was great to see her. I liked some of the things that she had to say. I liked that she was in charge in Dakar in The Force Awakens. But in this movie, up until the point where she gets sucked out into the vacuum of space, she was clearly in charge. Yeah. And she had one of my favorite lines in the entire movie when she told 3PO to wipe that nervous look off his face.
Yes.
Yeah, that was funny.
And
great.
Only Carrie Fisher could have got away with that. But it was, I don't know, I kind of feel like she had a big presence here. One of the things that I know not every moviegoer was going to think of, like I did, simply because I've read all these comics, was that she's a big character in the Poe Dameron series. Yep. And they have this ongoing relationship in that comic, and she is working very hard to make him realize what it is to be a leader. That it's more than just leading your troops on a successful mission. It's learning how to motivate your troops. It's learning when, discretion is the better part of valor, those type of things. And it's also hard to separate Leia from Carrie Fisher. And when after Carrie Fisher had died, Charles Soule wrote a funeral scene in Poe Dameron for Lulo, and there was a tribute to Carrie kind of embedded in that, where she makes a remark that she's kind of raising the next generation of leaders because one day she too would be luminous, and that very much was on my mind when I was seeing those scenes here. She's like, you can't get yourself killed on these missions because I need you to take over for me someday.
Right. Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up with the comics because, of course, it's definitely one area where my knowledge is lacking, and tying all these little threads together is, I think, so helpful. Just like when some of us read the novels, which, of course, none of this is required to enjoy Star Wars, as we know, but it is nice to be able to get that little extra perspective there.
Yeah, indeed. And in this case, I don't think, we've mentioned before in an earlier episode that is there a reliance on the extraneous material to tell the story in the main movies? And in this case, I don't think there was. I think you pretty much got their relationship just from seeing it play out on screen,
Right.
Well, and if I can interrupt you for just a second there, I would actually say, in this case, it was reversed. The movie made several things that have happened in the comics the previous months make a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
Simply because, I don't think Poe really did anything in The Force Awakens that made him come off as irresponsible or not necessarily putting the lives of his soldiers in, as a priority. And there was a couple times in the comics where Leia was coming down hard on Poe for making an ill-advised decision that I didn't think was warranted based on what we knew about Poe. Yeah. But then the opening scene of this movie justified every little bit of that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, Dennis, is that although I guess I kind of read the writing on the wall, so to speak, whenever there was that story about how there's conflict between Leia and Poe.
Right.
A while back, and I was like, oh, I see what they're doing now. They're trying to build up that whole, she's trying to make him a better leader thing. And, you can't go rushing off into battle. And, it's kind of interesting because I think back to her as a young character, and she was kind of like Poe Dameron. We always try to say Poe is Poe supposed to be the Han Solo character? Is Poe supposed to be? Poe's kind of the Leia character as well, back in the original trilogy. I mean, Han had to basically teach her that lesson of, hey, it's time to cut your losses and run. Funny, a gambler would teach her that, right? And in the Battle of Hoth, hey, come on, it's time. And she's still trying to direct the fight, to the very last minute. And so it's interesting. It's I never really saw that connection before we started talking about this. So.
Sure.
Well, that's a good point.
Our discussion of Leia is bled over into Poe as well. So let's go ahead and introduce the third character that we're going to talk about this evening. And we might as well talk about all three of them at the same time, because that's the way it's going. But, we had Vice Admiral Holdo, played by Laura Dern. And, her debut in this movie is after Leia has, the Force recovery, where she flew back into the ship after she got sucked out into space. And, Akbar's gone. I don't know exactly who all for the Resistance was on the bridge of that battleship, because I was like, well, is Admiral Statura there, or was he somewhere else with the rest of Black Squadron, or what was going on exactly? But in any event, the hierarchy puts her in charge, and she kind of comes in and has an immediate disagreement with Poe. So Jay, what did you think of Holdo?
Oh, I love her. Absolutely love her. And of course, I've read the novelizations for Leia and for Bloodlines. So there's a lot of history there with Leia. So I was really, really excited to see her come to life. But it's very interesting to me because Pam Brickwalski and I, she just blogged about Admiral Holdo on Coffee with Kenobi, as a matter of fact. And we were having this conversation because Pam hasn't read any of the books. She didn't know anything about Admiral Holdo at all. And she was so enamored with her just because of the way that she basically took over and her presence. And it's interesting too, Taxus, that you said about the way that she was dressed, and she wasn't dressed as a military person, but yet she was so incredibly regal. And that to me kind of harkens back a lot to even Princess Leia, because people knew that when she stepped in a room, she meant business. Yeah. So it might not be a military might, but it's a, you know, someone that you can definitely look up to. Although it was funny when Poe said, "That's Admiral Holdo." You know, her reputation preceded her, but yet not in the way that he expected.
Yeah, so she's been out of the scene until this very moment. I mean, I guess that's what we take it.
Well, again, going back to your whole, you know, having to rely on external materials to know about what's going on. Holdo is, you know exactly where Holdo was if you've read the Kowat Squadron book.
Yes,
exactly. She shows up in that. But you know, the other thing about the appearance of these characters, Leia and Holdo, is, you know, think back to Return of the Jedi, the first time we ever saw Mon Mothma. You know, she was in charge, but she wasn't wearing a military uniform either. She was wearing a white gown.
But she wanted to emphasize the civilian leadership, not a military hand. You know what I mean? I think.
Yeah, but she still was the one in charge in the room. Yeah. And both Holdo...
But they didn't call her General Mon Mothma, though. You know what I mean? That's
does that really matter, though? I mean,
if you're calling somebody Admiral and you're in a military situation, I expect you to be... I don't know. That's just me.
Okay.
You know?
Well... I guess the other point I would make there is that, you know, like Mon Mothma, Leia and Holdo both had senatorial backgrounds. And so I could see them, although while they are acting in that role, they're also trying to recruit worlds to their cause. And perhaps it might be more beneficial. This is all speculation, but it might be more beneficial to play that role. Anyway, that aside. So Holdo's first encounter with Poe is that, you know, he introduces himself as Commander Dameron, and she immediately reminds him, "No, you got demoted back down to captain for your speech."
Her last order.
So, do you all approve of the way Vice Admiral Holdo handled Poe? She didn't let him in on the plan. I don't think she really let many people in on the plan. It seemed like there was only a core 3 or 4 people maybe that knew what was going on, that they were headed towards Crate, that they were going to evacuate in the shuttles and rally. You know, the plan was to rally some allies. And she didn't mention to Poe. She didn't mention it to Lieutenant Connix. She didn't mention it to Finn or Rose, or it seems like most of the soldiers on that ship.
I do kind of take issue with it a little bit, because I feel like, you know, in levels of power, you've got legitimate power, and then you've got referential power. You know, Poe pretty much had legitimate power by being commander, right? But being knocked back down to captain, he still had significant legitimate or referential power, right? People listened to him. People took cues off of him. I mean, heck, he was able to make most of the ship go into mutiny, you know? Or to get them to do it.
Most of the ship or a half dozen people?
I mean, you know, the ones that mattered. But the, you know, so I kind of feel like she was slighting him somewhat by not trusting him with that. And that, of course, compelled him to do what he did, and then thus, of course, compelled Finn and Rose to go off on their thing. So I don't know. It just created a certain amount of dissension in the ranks. But yeah.
Well, the way that I look at it is that, you know, Amilyn Holdo has always kind of had a quirky personality from the get-go. What she has in her own mind might not exist in other people's minds. But that being said, I kind of look at it almost as what a parent might do. Sometimes we do things and we make decisions that we do for the greater good of our children and for our family. And we don't always tell them why we're doing it or what we're doing. And we don't have to necessarily justify it or give explanation for it. We just expect our children to follow our example and do as we ask them to do and trust in that. So, you know, I kind of feel that it's sort of in that way. You know, do I agree with it? Whether I agree with it or not is neither here nor there. But I can definitely see why it was done the way that it was.
Hey, go get Daddy that reciprocating saw and the shovel. Don't ask questions.
Yeah,
just go get it for me. That's right.
Well, it's kind of like even it almost reminds me of when, you know, Qui-Gon told Anakin, down. He didn't question it. You know, when Darth Maul was coming across with that speeder, he didn't stand there and go, well, why do I have to get down? What's coming? He was the authority figure. He said down, and he did it. No questions asked.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this. On the one hand, it is, you know, a lot of animosity could have been avoided if she had given Poe some better reason to, you know, understand that she had this in hand, that everything was going to be fine. They had something, as opposed to brushing off his concerns. On the other hand, you know, Poe didn't give her the benefit of the doubt at all after she took over. It was the, you know, he marched up and demanded to know what was going on, and his assumption was, you know, did you notice we're being followed by Star Destroyers? You know, those ships that are firing shots, you know, off the stern, you know. And it's just kind of like, you know, don't insult her intelligence, Poe. She, you know, she's keenly aware of the situation, and I don't know, I placed kind of a little bit of blame on both of them. I would like to, if there's a part of the movie I could rewrite, it might have been this. It might have been that maybe there would have been a better explanation of, you know, why they were in that situation, or, you know, maybe Finn and Rose, you know, Poe didn't agree with them or something. But clearly they were trying to get this whole Poe becoming a future leader story, and this was part of that storyline. Him learning to accept that some things are not in his control, some things were in his hand.
Right. Okay. Well, you know, one other point too I want to make with that as well, with the whole parenting thing, kind of bringing that back full circle to Leia, and, you know, my feeling that Poe saw Leia as a mother figure. It, to me, this was another point I wanted to make, was that having Admiral Holdo step in is almost like having the stepmom take over. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, it's your mom was there. You trusted your mom. Yeah, you might have tested her boundaries a little bit, but now mom's kind of out of the picture. She's not gone completely, but she's not in charge right now. And who are you to tell me what to do?
Yeah, Dad's got this younger model.
Yeah, younger model. But you know, you get the point. So I don't know if maybe there was that little bit of a dynamic going on as well. Maybe I'm reading a little too much into that. But
no, because it's funny that you talk about the shared characteristics with Leia, because I mean, I don't know. I just felt like there was a lot of what Holdo did that they probably could have just written for Carrie Fisher. You know? I don't know. I just I almost felt like, of all the characters, I felt like she was the most, I don't want to say needless. I mean, just extraneous. Is that the right word for it? You know, like the story could have been told really without, I mean, sure, she hit hyperspace, but I mean, let's face it, anybody could have done that.
Well, speaking of which, you brought up a point that I wanted to address, is did it make sense for the leader of the Resistance, or the second in command of the Resistance, to be the one that stayed behind to steer the Raddus back into, you know, to be the diversion? I mean,
with so many of them left.
I mean, I understand that an officer, you know, shouldn't be afraid to do something that, you know, he would order any one of the subordinates, but you know, she was pretty important, probably more important to the future of the Resistance than any one of the soldiers, you know, other than Leia and Poe getting on one of those ships. So, anyways, that just kind of stood out to me. That I mean, it served the story. I get that. That if she was still around at the end of this movie, then, you know, Poe would have been the third person everybody was looking to. And, you know, it would have been Leia, Holdo, then Poe. And then, you know, they make that point of when they're in the caves on Crate and they're trying to flee, and they realize the Volp, what do they call them? The foxes? Volptex. Thank you. You know, they figured out that those critters knew how to get out of there. You know, everyone's, you know, Poe's like, you know, follow me, let's go. And everyone looks back to Leia, and she's, what are you looking at me for? Follow him. You know, which was that great moment after Poe had, you know, already mentioned, you know, we are the spark that will light the fire that'll burn down the First Order in the galaxy. You know, he got it in that moment, and I don't know we could have done that if Holdo had still been around.
Yeah.
Well, here's another question. let's suppose for an instance that Poe hadn't been demoted, and for whatever reason, they worked out that, well, he was assigned to the Radis with Leia, and he was a significant enough rank that he was the person that should be in charge. How do we think this movie plays out? He agreed to let Finn and Rose go try and take down the tracer on the Supremacy, but when they're running out of fuel and Finn and Rose have failed in their mission, what does he do? He wasn't about abandoning ship.
Yeah.
Right.
I probably would have, if I was in his shoes, I probably would have had one of the other cruisers go ahead and abandon ship and then used that to hyperspace into the ship. I don't know. That seems like they lost opportunities, but he probably would have tried to do something like that, to where he takes them out instead of hiding, Yeah. There's decisions that are made in war, and you're dealing with the information you have at the time, and we're led to believe that is the Resistance fleet. Those few ships that were left. Right. I gotta hope that they have more resources elsewhere that they can call upon before Episode 9. And you don't want, and so therefore maybe they didn't necessarily want to sacrifice a ship until they absolutely had to. Plus, it didn't seem like it was that easy to abandon any one of those ships, because there's the one cruiser. I can't remember who the name of the guy was. But they looked kind of like the an updated version of the medical frigate. Yeah. And that one's falling behind. It was. Yeah, we saw transports leaving at the last second. Yeah. They had patients to transport over, and so hard to make those type of calls in the heat of the moment. But
wasn't there autopilot on any of those ships?
Can you set a ship to go auto to hyperspace? Though I mean,
I don't know.
or left an astromech droid on there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they got to have a couple of those somewhere, right? I don't know.
Somewhere.
Oh no.
Interesting. Plot
hole. No, I'm playing.
And then one other question that I had when you were talking about the leadership and who was taking over, and it's almost hard to wrap my head around how things would have been differently if had Poe taken over. But when they were announcing who would be taking over in Leia's absence, Poe straightened up just a little bit. Yep. Was that in anticipation that he would be taking over, or was that in almost like, uh-oh, is the teacher going to call on me kind of thing? Yeah. Is it going to be me? Am I going to have to answer this question? Yeah. So what were your feelings on that, guys?
I thought he was completely expecting to be announced as the new leader of the Resistance right there. Mm-hmm. That he, for whatever reason, he was not anticipating. He didn't know what Admiral Holdo looked like, so he didn't even realize that she was on the bridge. And so as far as he knew, prior to Leia becoming incapacitated, he was next in line for command after all those officers on the bridge were sucked out into space. Mm-hmm. So, I think he was expecting to be called on to take command there, and finding out that Holdo was around was a bit of a shock to him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can I ask?
Because I wasn't sure, how to take that. I feel like it could have gone either way, but I was leaning towards what you said, Dennis. Sorry, Texas, go ahead.
Can I ask you guys this? Okay, so I haven't read Cobalt Squadron. All right. Mm-hmm. Convince me why Holdo should be an admiral based on your reading. I mean, what is her history? I mean, because I'm sure there's others out there that haven't read it, and they're probably not going to. And by this point, no spoiler alert. So, I would like to know myself.
Well, have you read Bloodlines?
Yes.
Or Bloodline, I should say.
Yes.
Okay.
Finally.
Okay.
Was she in Bloodline? I thought she was just in Princess Leia.
I don't remember her in
Princess
Bloodline.
Alderaan.
Yeah, she wasn't. Yeah, wasn't okay. Not like spoiler alert. Woo.
Too late.
But wasn't she the one that was the only one that stood up for Leia after her lineage was revealed? Wasn't that Holdo?
I'm not sure that's correct.
I'm pretty sure it was. Or was that someone else? I was thinking it was Holdo. But
she's not
wrong.
At least on the Wikipedia page, Bloodline is not listed as an appearance for Holdo.
Oh, then who am I thinking of?
I thought
there was another senator that was around.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it was Holdo. I can't remember.
Okay. Then I'm crossing my wires there.
And she wasn't holding a door shut while the army of the dead was trying to get to a young child either.
Hold on.
Well,
that was Hodor. Sorry.
Huh?
Fantastic. To answer your question, Taxus, there's nothing in Colbot's squadron that tells you why she's in command. No. We know from this movie that she apparently had some successful battle that she was famous for, because I can't remember what Poe said that was, but he knew of her reputation from, what did he say? He's like, that's Admiral Holdo, the battle of whatever it was, Admiral Holdo. Yeah. She's already an officer's position in Cobalt squadron, and she's helping reassign a couple of these bomber squadrons as they're getting ready. It bleeds right into Last Jedi, so she's in command there. I don't know. I think it's I'm not sure where you're going exactly with this question, but to me it's just kind of I don't know that we have to have that answer in order to accept her as a leader in this situation.
Yeah, right, I guess it was just to satisfy my curiosity,
Okay.
I mean, do we question how did Akbar become an admiral? I mean, why is he an admiral?
We've seen his exploits during the Clone Wars.
Well, okay, whatever.
He was Captain Akbar of the Royal Guard.
Right.
But no, I guess that was the other thing, is I just felt no connection to her. And maybe that's kind of the way, I mean, Poe's like, hey, who is this? Why is she calling the shots? You know what I mean? But I don't know. He knew of her, but he didn't have that. Again, she had legitimate power over him, but he didn't really respect her, obviously.
Well, I think that's only because she didn't tell him the plan, and he expected to be included. Because he walked up and he introduced himself, and she said, then she threw it back at his face. You're not a commander. You got demoted. Isn't that what Leia did right before all this happened?
Yeah.
So I take it that he respected her fine. He disagreed with her. He thought he knew. He respected her at the moment up until she didn't fill him in on all the details there. And he's a shoot first, ask questions. Plot. Everything out later. He wasn't seeing a big future. And that's where he got to at the end of this movie, was that he realized, going out there on Crate, the speeders were not effective against the First Order there, and so let's not stay out here and get ourselves killed. Let's regroup. And which is not what he was doing at the Battle of Dakar, which was, we have an opportunity to take out a dreadnought. Those things are fleet killers. And well, that's great. You just got all of our bombers destroyed, Poe. That's he grew more than anybody else, probably. Well, I want to say that, but he grew significantly in this movie from the beginning to the end. It was some great plot development, from Rian Johnson. Or character
I like
development,
that. Yeah. Okay, you've convinced me. She's necessary for Poe's growth. How about that?
Okay. All right. Well, does anyone have a final point they want to make about any one of these characters?
Love them all. That's about it.
Poe's still one of my favorite, and this movie really entrenched the fact that he's one of my favorites. I really dig him a lot. Leia, I mean, I just felt like I don't know. There was just something weird and missing about her and Holdo together for me. I mean, not that it detracted from the story. It just wasn't the same. I mean, to me, it just wasn't even. I mean, I know you said like she had more of a role in this one, but in The Last Jedi, she's large and in charge. She's boom, walking onto the field of battle and everything. And I don't know. It's just a different feeling for me. I was hoping to see that Leia more. But
are you saying in The Force Awakens she was larger in charge?
No, in The Force Awakens she was. She just
okay. You said The Last Jedi here. Sorry. I was confused for a second. Okay,
I'm confused a lot.
Well, I liked her role. I think she did. It is we knew after Carrie Fisher died that Princess Leia was to have a larger role in Episode 9, which we won't get now. I think Poe is going to have an absolutely enormous role in Episode 9 as probably the primary leader of the Resistance at this point.
Sure.
I'm looking very much forward to that. I think he's developing an alliance with Rey that we saw at the end of this movie. And there is a ton of potential for him going forward. And unfortunately, of these three characters, he's the only one that we have the opportunity to see. Forward. So, and just, I guess the last note, it was bittersweet seeing Carrie Fisher one last time as Princess Leia.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I like that she got a good farewell scene with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
and you know that she had an opportunity to sense his presence diminish, you know, as he became one with the Force. You know, now this is the second movie in a row where, you know, Han disappeared at the end of Force Awakens, and then Luke at the end of this movie, and you know, she was the last of the big three characters surviving. So. Yeah, kind of weird considering how that does not mirror real life at all.
Exactly. I've thought about that before as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will do it then for our discussion of General Organa, Poe Dameron, and Vice Admiral Holdo. And Scoundrels, we want to hear from you. What did you think about these characters? Send us an email at scubepod@retrozap.com.
When he arrives on Canto Bight, the authorities invite him to park on the beach. He once won a Fadia race while riding a Bantha. He doesn't need to pick the locks to the Canto Bight City Jail. He just comes and goes as he pleases. When the Supremacy attacked his transports, he went to hyperspace and came back with tacos. He interrupted the Battle of Crate to get salt for his tequila. His use of Force time has resulted in 2 restraining orders. He is the only one that gets away with calling Armitage General Hugs. He is the most interesting Sith in the galaxy.
I always drink, and sometimes, when I'm desperate, I drink Dulce Beer. Stay seathy, my fools.
Banded together across the television dial are the 4 greatest superhero podcasts on the internet. Green Justice and Arrow Podcast, Scarlet Velocity, a Flash Podcast, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Case Files, and Terrigen Dreams and Inhumans Podcast. Join Super Friends Jovial J and Jedi Schwa weekly as they provide commentary and discussion on your favorite heroes. Only on RetroZap.com.
It's time for...
Silence, fools!
All right, from Facebook, Fode and Bede of the Starbecue podcast, let us comment on the RetroZap Facebook group, which it features many of your favorite RetroZap podcasters and writers, so check that out.
Yeah.
But they say, okay, this episode of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels is one of the most fun of any podcast episode I've ever heard.
Whoa.
I was playing Jedi challenges, and Vader cut my derriere, we'll say, down on Hoth because I was giggling. Also, you guys gave me a fresh perspective on Rose, which I desperately wanted back. Seriously, you guys got Ugnaughts Utai working overtime on production, insightful convo, hilarious inserts. And so he was,
wow.
Yeah, that was pretty nice comment that he left there. And that was in response to last episode 46. We were talking about Finn, Rose, and DJ. So, and be on lookout because Taxus and I will be appearing on a not so distant episode of their podcast. I think talking about the Force. We're not exactly sure yet.
Yeah. And also I might say, I'm glad you really enjoyed that episode. Hope it didn't raise the bar too high because probably going to mail it in this time. Right, guys?
Not planned, but sure.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, that seemed to be a pretty popular episode. We got a lot of really good feedback from that one. I know just personally from Twitter and some of the interactions that I had with some of our listeners. So thanks to all the Scoundrels for your continued support and staying with us because we definitely, that's why we're here. We love to do it.
Yeah, the Roko's Depots liked it too. So, you know.
Oh, yes. Yes. We got a great review from Roku Depot. Yes.
That's right.
And Deep Breath seems to be a lot more popular when you're not the guy talking to him anyway.
I still don't have the chance. I need to talk to him one day.
Yeah, you do that. So for Christmas, I was fortunate enough to get a copy of Battlefront 2, and I've been playing that quite a bit since then. And it got me to thinking, I know they do seasonal updates and they add new content and characters. So I wanted to know if who people would like to see added to the game next. And since they typically do a light side, dark side hero with whatever new level they wanted, I put a poll on Twitter asking what light side character you'd like to see. And unfortunately, Twitter only gives you 4 candidates or 4 slots for your. And I was torn as to who I wanted to nominate. I considered throwing Qui-Gon in there. I considered throwing Rex. I considered throwing someone from Rebels. But then I thought, well, who are the most likely candidates? And so I put up option number 1, Padme. Option number 2, Obi-Wan. And then I went with a real crowd pleaser. Option number 3, Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And then 4 was other, leave who you want to see in the comments. And obviously you guys know what the results are because they're there in our show notes. But I'll ask you all. I know, Jay, you've played Battlefront 2 just a little bit because your sons have the game.
Yep.
Who would you like to see added to this game between these candidates?
This is such a tough decision. And I believe I did vote for this and I voted for Ahsoka. And, but I'm kind of torn. I love all 3, but I'd kind of like to see Padme back in action too. And this hopefully will be a big year for Padme with some of the supplemental, stuff that's coming out there. So
yeah. I think that I would love to see a Padme character during the whole Senate debate, segment of the game. That would be really powerful.
This is how liberty dies.
So I started playing this. Yeah, and I got Leia as my first hero character. Is that pretty good?
Yeah. I like her quite a bit in the game.
Okay, cool. Because I haven't really had a chance to explore, too much with her yet. But but yeah, you hit something with me, Dennis. I really would love to see Sabine.
Ooh,
interesting choice.
Yeah,
that would be a cool character, huh? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The double guns, that'd be awesome.
Well, this is really out there, but Bo-Katan, that would be really cool too.
Yeah,
but
that would be.
You're getting a little far into some of the more specific types of fandom.
But they can do that. I mean, it's all zeros and ones, right? All right. I mean, I think I would pay extra. I would pay for a Sabine. I'm just saying. I'm sure.
Well, you could do your own mod. I mean, they have the Kylo Ren mod. That's the from Saturday Night Live. Help me out. I have him on my wall.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
That people have done that mod. Yes, Matt, the radar technician. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So build your own.
Right. I out of these choices, I picked Obi-Wan myself, and he squeaked out a win over Ahsoka. So Obi-Wan came in first with 47% of the vote. Ahsoka came in second with 40, and that's not as big as margin as it sounds because there was like 30 respondents to this poll. Padme came in third with 10th, and then the other category got 3%, and the only comment mentioned all 3, which that I'd love to see all 3 too, but I was just trying. They don't do usually multiple heroes for both sides at the same time,
right?
So I'm putting you 2 on the spot right now. I'm going to throw up another poll on Twitter featuring the dark side heroes and who you'd like to see added. So Taxus, if you could have a dark side hero, and I would say keep it out of the weeds. Try and think of a bit more mainstream here. Who would you like to see added?
May I ask you a question first? Can you name some of the dark side heroes that are already included in the game?
I have done no research.
You have Boba Fett, you have Bossk, Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Kylo Ren, Phasma, Emperor Palpatine, and Versio is considered a dark side hero.
You know what? I'm going to take General Veers.
General Veers?
Yeah. No, I mean, officers are important.
Seriously?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. All
right.
Okay.
Jay? But he's going to have a huge, big blow-up gun. How about that, Jay?
Okay. Well, all right. I love it.
Well, I'm just going to throw General Veers without the big blow-up gun. I think you're looking at more of an officer type of a hero if you were added. Yeah. But Jay, how about you?
Darth Bane.
Darth Bane. Okay.
Well, yeah. That'd be a good pick.
Interesting. I was leaning towards Cad Bane. Myself.
Yeah, good one. Yeah,
kind of balance out the Ahsoka entry. So I'm going to put those 3 up on a Twitter poll, and then I'll also leave an other category, so our listeners can nominate their own version, and we will get those results on our next episode.
Hey, can I ask you one clarification real quick on your Obi-Wan selection? Is your preference, is that old Obi-Wan or young Obi-Wan?
I left it intentionally vague.
Ah, okay. Vague Obi-Wan. Okay. All right.
Vague Obi-Wan.
Right. All right. Well, that'll do it for Silence Fools. So our coverage of The Last Jedi has concluded with our discussion about Leia, Poe, and Holdo, but fear not, I'm sure The Last Jedi will be coming up again and again in the future as we have a lot of other discussions about various Star Wars topics. So before we go, do either of you have anything coming up for the Scoundrels to look forward to?
Well, for me, as usual, you can find my fashion review blogs on Coffee with Kenobi. For Core Worlds Couture, my column there. And I have to say, I have to give a quick shout out to Michael Pascal and Inked Gaming Playmats for my wonderful custom yoga mat that I just received. If you go back to the Wizard... that's a Wizard section for our gift guide. No. This was for episode 45. This was for the New Year's resolutions one. That's I take that back. Mm-hmm. I had hinted about that, and I put out a tweet, and it's gotten a lot of nice response. And so if anyone else would like a wonderful, wonderful playmat, you can check that out and get one for yourself. Mm-hmm. But I love it. So I had to say thank you to both of them. So job well done, and I'm so very pleased.
And by the way, Jay, I've been meaning to thank you for disseminating some of those good, strong portraits that you got from Michael about, to me and Dennis over the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
Those are
my pleasure.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. I mean, and we just teenaged the area up here, so now I have a lot of room to be able to hang stuff up on now. So yay!
Very good. Yes.
So for me, you can find me over on Assembly Geeks as well. I'm the Geek Supreme with Scott Murray, Regina Davis, and Jeff McGee. It's a fun little geek talk show / game show kind of thing, and this week it's a potpourri, literally smelly brewing thing of water and roots of geek fun. So go look for that. Drops every Tuesday.
Wow, you quite the compelling description there, Texas. But I will say you've all had a lot of fun Star Wars opinions in the last few episodes, so I would recommend that as well. As usual, I have some recent comic reviews on RetroZap, including Star Wars number 42, really good series right now. The Ashes of Jeddah story arc is good. I highly recommend it. And Poe Dameron number 23, also another very good series that I alluded to during our hypothetical. You can find all my reviews under the comic commentary section on RetroZap. You can also find me on War Trails, which is the Star Trek Discovery podcast that I have with my wife. War Trails is exclusive to the RetroZap podcast feed. There's been some really incredible / mind-blowing twists in the second half of the season. The past few weeks, and we've been geeking out a lot over those on War Trails. So look for that on your favorite podcatcher, or head over to retrozap.com. Scoundrels, thank you for listening and for your support. If you've enjoyed the show, this has been Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and we would love a review wherever you listen to your podcast, especially iTunes, which is also known as Apple Podcasts. Remember, you can write a podcast review directly from Apple's podcast app now, and it's easier than ever to leave one. On the other hand, if you didn't care for this, please don't navigate our ship through hyperspace into the Supremacy. No. Yeah, anyway, we do appreciate anytime you share our show posts on Twitter and Facebook. Please let others know you're listening by sharing the show on social media. Thanks to everyone that has taken the time to share the show with others.
And speaking of social media, we are on several different sites. Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at @SCubedPod, and liked on Facebook, where we are facebook.com/SCubedPod. If you want to follow Darth Taxus on Twitter, he is at Darth Taxus. Dennis is at GJKVER2, and I am at Joyce Krebs. In addition to social media, you can reach us by email at scubedpod@retrozap.com. retrozap.com. We would love to hear your thoughts on Leia, Poe, and Holdo from The Last Jedi. But if you have anything else that is on your mind, Star Wars related or not, then let us know. Emails, really good tweets, and iTunes reviews end up in Silence Fools. Again, our email address is scubedpod@retrozap.com.
As always, we are honored to be part of the retrozap.com podcast network. Did you know that RetroZap is home to 21 podcasts? That's another great potpourri, but locally sourced. Please check out RetroZap for other great shows, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Case Files, The Deucecast Movie Show, the best general movie show on the web, Kanata's Castle, Talking Apes TV, which is all about, of course, Planet of the Apes, and the aforementioned Warp Trails, which, like you said, Dennis, the last few episodes are warping my mind, man. Also, I'd like to give a special congratulations to fellow RetroZap Network show, Skywalking Through Neverland, for releasing their 200th episode.
Whoa,
wow, that is
big. Awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So everybody cool. go check that out after you're done listening to us, because you probably came to us first, right? Just saying.
Absolutely.
So also be sure to check out our Scoundrels t-shirts on TeePublic. Just go to teepublic.com/user/scubedpod, or just search for us on the site. In a cinch, they're the perfect thing to wrap the pipes with in cold weather.
Well, thanks to Aaron Lay for our show logos, and to James Volpe, the Sky Geek, for our The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly show logo.
And here is our disclaimer. Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels is not endorsed, affiliated with, or sponsored by Lucasfilm Limited and or Disney. This show is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All characters, music, and sounds are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. All else is the intellectual property of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels unless otherwise indicated.
Well, any final thoughts?
What's that beeping?
Yeah, let's hurry this up. I have something fast coming towards the ship.
An enemy attack?
I wish. No, it's a giant margarita machine in space.
Well, that will do it for episode 47 of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Always, thanks for listening and joining us this week. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
This is top shelf. Sorry, hold on, Dennis. I've got a phone call from my wife. Hi, sugar. Nope. We're almost done. I was doing the last segment right now. Okay, well, I'll take her out here in a second, okay? All right, love you. Bye. She goes, "Are you done?"